Hi, welcome to question 3 of the 2023 paper 1 of the Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Maths. So if you want a copy of these notes, just send an email to shanetroy@gmail.com and like and subscribe to get access to more playlists. So we're here on question 3, part A. Now it's an algebra question, so I jumped too far. And this part is worth whopping 15 marks for, I think, fairly, decent attempts, even at least. And the question says, solve the following equation in x is an element of R. Now, that terminology, x is an element of R, is kind of irrelevant. It just means x is every number. Okay, a real number is every number. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay? In fact, you could ignore it. It's just said there for mathematical reasons. Now, if we know our rules of BODMAS, okay, we know that brackets mean multiply. Okay, so my first step here is to multiply. So I'm going to go left to right. We always work left to right and do at least a step, and that will qualify me for the attempt, which is the 6 marks. Okay, so 3 times 2x. Okay, if I have 2 apples and I triple it, I have 6 apples. And then 3 times 4 is 12. Now I still have to take away the 5, and that's equal to the 3. So I look left to right now and see, can I do any manipulation? And I see here, well, 12 take away 5. I can do that. So 12 take away 5 is 7, okay, equal to 3. Okay, don't know what happened there. So 6x plus 7 equal to 3. Now, I want to have the x on one side, everything else over the far side. So if I look here, what will I remove first? Do I get rid of the 6 first or get rid of the 7? Now, with experience, you'll realize that if something's added, subtracted, I should try to get rid of that first. So if you have a 7, so if I have €7 and you want that off me, well, you could ask me nicely for it and I'll tell you where to go. But if you want to get it, it's a life or death situation, you have to take it. If you take something on one side in algebra, that's okay, as long as you do the exact same thing to the far side. So that becomes 6x doesn't change. Okay, 7 take away 7 is 0. On the right-hand side, 3 take away 7 is negative 4. Okay, so then we look left to right again and go 6 times some number equals negative 4. I want to get rid of this 6. Now, algebraically, the easiest way to do it is to divide the 6 by itself. Anything divided by itself will always turn into 1. So I'll have achieved what I want to do. If I do something on one side, I have to do the same thing on the other. Okay, and I end up then with, now that can be simplified. If you put it to the calculator, you get negative 2/3. Okay, so that is a chunk of marks and like happy days. Okay, if you got to that far, you have the full 15. So the answer in the notes here, it's no different. Now I did test my answer, put the solution I get back into the original equation, and then seeing does left-hand side equal right-hand side, and it does. So I have that correct answer. If I was a computer, I might just throw values into the original equation and seeing which two numbers satisfy the equation. But I'm not a computer, so we have to use the system of algebra to solve the issue. Okay. If I keep going, then now part B is only worth 5 marks, but it's in a sense there's no real calculations here. You're just testing a specific skill, and it says graph each of the following inequalities. Now, inequalities are effectively equations, so you can think of them like that. You just have to know what this terminology means. If it means, let's see, now move it over here. So this symbol here means, let's say, x is less than maybe 4. Okay. If you have the little sign here, that means x can be 4, can be equal to 4, or every number less than 4. Okay. And that's where this x is an element of R comes in. Now, on the opposite situation, x maybe is greater than 4. Okay. Now, if x is greater than 4, it can be 5, 6, 7. If it's only the whole numbers, or it could be 4.001 or whatever. But when I put in the little symbol here, it means equal to. So x can be equal to 4, and every number bigger than 4. Again, the little x is an element of R and stuff that can affect things. So it says here in part 1, x is less than or equal to 2.8. So if I find 2.8 here and just mark where I think it is, okay. Now that, if I could probably just write on it, okay, 2.8, that's going to get you something. okay, for some attempt at it. I'm just actually looking at the attempt marks here on the marking scheme. I don't see it actually. It says work of merit, but if you show here that you understand that a real number is every number less than. So I'm going to use a heavy dot because it says equal to 2.8 and it's every number all the way back. Now, I could make that prettier, but that's the essence of it. Now, the same situation, x is less than 2.8. If it's only focusing on the integers, now an integer is a positive or negative whole number. So again, I mark the 2.8 because it is 2.8. Okay, actually I shouldn't mark 2.8. Let's go for the answer here. Sorry, I'm being silly. If it's an integer, it can't be 2.8. It's less than 2.8, so it's not 3. Then it's only the whole number, so it's 2, 1, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, to infinity. Okay, so my bad. Now the last one is similar situation. It says x is an element of n, so it's a natural number, which is the positive whole numbers. So again, it can't be 2.8 because it has to be a whole number. The next whole number smaller than 2.8 is 2, 1. Now, 0 is not considered a natural number. It's not a countable number. And the negative numbers are not natural. Okay. So the real trick there is with the x is an element of r is the heavy dot and fill in the whole line going backwards. If this question had not had the equal, if it just said x is less than 2.8, you would have put in just a circle with not filled in. So it's representing that it's not 2.8, but it's every number less than 2.8. And then you have the integer, which is all the positive or negative whole numbers, and then the naturals, which are only the positive whole numbers. And that's it. So in a way, if you know your number theory, that's probably a fairly handy question. But obviously, if those symbols don't mean anything, you're going to be guessing. But a guess is better than nothing. Now, part C here is on simultaneous equations, and they call it out what they want. There's two different ways of solving simultaneous equations. There's the elimination method, which we're going to use right now, and there's the substitution method, which would actually work here. But it just depends which one you prefer. You're not being stipulated which one you have to use, and I don't think you would be, but it is a super important methodology that you will be assessed. And there's been different years of the Leaving Cert where I've seen it being assessed 4 or 5 times. So I would consider prioritizing that as one of the skills you want to focus on coming up to the mocks or the exam. So it says use algebra to solve the following simultaneous equations, and we have a linear equation here, x minus y plus 1 equals 0, so it's all on one side. And then you have another one here that says 2x plus 4y equals 19. Now the trick with simultaneous equations is realizing that if I was to take the x minus y plus 1 equals 0 and try manipulate this, pretty soon you realize that there's more than one unknown. So I can rearrange it and bring things to either side and do all that, but I can never solve it. The same thing with the 2x plus 4y is equal to 19. I can manipulate it. I could divide across by 2. I could bring the 4y over, whatever. But ultimately, because there's two unknowns, I can't solve it. But simultaneous equations works when I have two equations of the same two unknowns. I can eliminate one of them. Now, the first step to eliminating it would be having everything on one side. So a good attempt there would be on this side here, try manipulate this so there's the x and y, in a sense, make it look the same way. So I'm going to get rid of the 1 by taking 1 away from it. If I do it one side, I have to do it to both. And I'm going to end up with x minus y. Now 1 take away 1 is gone. Is equal to 0 take away 1 is negative 1. Now, that's sitting on top of the other equation, and I've just, in a sense, made them look the same. Now, if that's all I do, I probably will qualify for the 4, although I'm just checking the marking sheet here. Apologies. Okay. My mouse is being overly sensitive today. Okay, produce one equation. I don't see it called out there, so maybe I'm fairly sure you would get something for that. Now, I'm going to use the actual answer I've done on the sheet here because it's nice and pretty. So here's where I've caught up on. That's where I left off on the last page. Now, to make one of the variables the same size, I'll have to manipulate one of the equations. And I want it to be the same size, but opposite in signs, so that when I combine those two equations together, that something cancels out. Now, in the notes here, I've chosen to go with the y. If I can make this 4 times bigger, minus 4y plus 4y will cancel when joined together. Now, I'm totally okay with multiplying y by negative 4. And I'm only correct if I do it to everything else. Okay, so if I multiply the whole way across by 4, it's the same equation, the same pattern, it's just 4 times bigger. Okay, so I do that. 4 times x is 4x, 4 times negative y is negative 4y, and 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Now I haven't manipulated the bottom equation because I want this to happen. When I combine them, 4x plus 2x is 6x. Now, minus 4y plus 4y, I owe you €4, you pay me 4 back, we're square. Okay? We don't owe each other anything, so they're cancelled. Now, minus 4 plus 19 is plus 15. Now then, to get rid of the 6, I'm going to divide it by itself. If I do it one side, I have to do it to the other. So 6x divided by 6 is the same thing as 1x. It's 15 divided by 6. Now, if you cancel that, suppose you could use the calculator. I'm looking here at, is there a number that will divide evenly into top and bottom? So 3 is fairly obvious to me. 3 into 15 goes to 5 times. 3 into 6 goes to twice. So the answer there, x is 5 over 2. Now we know one of the variables. So the fact that I didn't know the x or the y and there was 2 unknowns is irrelevant now because I do know what the x value is. So if I take either equation, and I think the x minus y plus 1 looks like the easiest equation, so I'm going to take that, but you could do the other one. And instead of the x, I'm going to substitute the 5 over 2. And then I look at that and go, right, I go left, right. Can I combine anything? Well, 5 over 2 plus 1 is the same thing as 7 over 2, and the calculator will help you with that. Okay, 7 over 2, take away the y equals 0. Now, I want to get rid of the y, and you could do this different ways, but you could just bring it across, and when something moves across, it changes operator, not just sign. So it was subtracted on the left, so it would have been added on the right. Or use the more fundamental way. If you want to get rid of something, do the opposite to it. So minus y, if I'm going to do the opposite, it's add y to it. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to both sides. Now, the consequence of that is when I go left to right, 7 over 2 doesn't change. Minus y plus y cancel each other out. 0 plus y is just y. So I have my answer. Now, if I put both those numbers back into either equation, I should end up in a situation where left side equals right side, proving that those points are correct. You could have used trial and error, but what's the chances of guessing 5 over 2 out of all the numbers that there could be? It's just arguably an infinite set. Okay. You could have used a substitution method, but just purely for time reasons, I'm not going to focus on that. But it is a good 10 marks. And again, over the paper, it could happen 2 or 3 times. And it is a methodology that you should practice. And there's any number of resources. It's asked every year. Just there's no two ways about that. Okay, so that was question 3 of the 2023 paper 1, Leaving Cert Maths Ordinary Level. If you want a copy of these notes, just send me an email to shanetroy@gmail.com and like and subscribe to get access to more playlists. Thanks, and see you on question 4.